so we're first going to start off drawing quite a large square in the middle of your paper. So it's almost like a little bit like Art Attack, if you imagine that. So a little bit of space either side and up at the top and the bottom of it. And what we're going to do is we're going to divide that square into 4 different columns. Now the reason for that, we have 4 chambers in the heart. Now the top chambers, these are known as atriums. So you've got atrium there, and then the bottom chambers are known as your ventricles. So you've got atriums and your ventricles. Now blood will always run from your atriums down into your ventricles. So it'll never go across, it'll never go diagonal, it'll always go from atrium down to the ventricle. Good way of remembering that is A is the first letter in the alphabet, so it flows from A to V. Now one thing that we also need to add into this image is knowing and defining which side is the left and which side is the right. Now that can be quite, depends, it can be quite simple, it can be quite complex depending on if you've ever done anything like that before. But imagine I am this way on my sheet of paper, so this side is my left, whereas this side is my right. So when I'm drawing it onto my paper, it's opposites, so it's like a mirrored image, if you imagine. So what we're going to do is we're just going to draw an imaginary dotted line through the middle, and then this side is going to be the left, whereas this side is going to be the right. And the main reason why that is important for when you're drawing this image is because the left hand side of your heart, the characteristic of that one is that it only carries oxygenated blood, whereas the right hand side of your heart, the characteristic of that one is that it only carries deoxygenated blood. So there we've got our basic structure of our chambers, knowing which chambers are which. So say for example left atrium, left ventricle, right atrium. So one thing that we are missing from this image now are blood vessels. So how we get the blood into the heart and how we take blood away from the heart. Now just a quick tip on this as well. If you were to write the word vein, the last 2 letters of that word are in, I-N. So that means veins only bring blood into the heart. Whereas if you were to write the word artery, the first letter of the word artery is A, so it takes blood away from your heart. Or a good other example of that one is, because I'm from Yorkshire, it's blood going out of your heart.
That's the easy one, lad. That's Yorkshire flowing through the veins.
So anyway, I'm just going to look to draw some veins and arteries into this image now. So the first one that we have is here. So this vein, I've drawn it in blue because it's vein, and blood is going that way, so into the heart. The name of this vein is known as your pulmonary vein. Through your studying you may see this word pulmonary come up quite often, and usually it refers to the lungs. So if you think of it, lung vein, so that is the main vein coming from the lungs into the heart. And if you think this vein is on the left hand side of your body, so therefore it's going to be transferring oxygenated blood into that left atrium. So what happens is, well, I'll just put it in here for your records, that is from the lungs. So the blood comes in from the lungs into the left atrium, it'll then drop down into the left ventricle, and then from your left ventricle we will then have blood taken away from the heart. So I'm just going to draw this in red because it's an artery. So we've got blood going away from your heart there. The main artery, this one, that feeds the rest of the body with oxygenated blood. So the name of this artery is called your aorta. And like I say, that goes to the body. It has a really thick muscular wall as your aorta, just because if you imagine you're doing sprints on a treadmill, your heart's absolutely beating out of its chest, you're trying to get all of that blood, well, the majority of that blood to the working muscles, mainly down the lower limbs, so therefore it needs to really forcefully push that blood out, pump that blood out, so your aorta would be really thick as a structure. So once blood gets pumped out of your aorta, it then feeds the rest of the bodily systems with oxygenated blood because we need that oxygen to enable them to work. So it could be your internal organs, skeletal muscle, and other structures. So once it's used that oxygenated blood, what then happens is the blood doesn't just then disappear. You've utilised the oxygen in that blood, but the blood still continues to move, and it needs to continue to move back up to the heart. Now how it does that, through a process called venous return. We can cover that in another video. But the main vein that brings blood back up into the heart is known as your Vena Cava, and that is from the body. So your Vena Cava is coming from the body, and this time, as we can see, it's on the right hand side of the heart. It's carrying that deoxygenated blood back up into the right atrium. The blood will then drop down into the right ventricle, and then what would happen is the blood would then be pumped out of another artery, and there we go, you can kind of see that example there. And the name of this artery is known as your pulmonary artery. Now again, we can see that this word pulmonary is coming up, so that means it's something to do with the lungs. So it's the main lung artery, so that is feeding that blood back up to your lungs to become reoxygenated again through a process called gaseous exchange, which again we can look to cover on another future video. So that's it, there we have it. We basically have a rough idea, a good simplified version of how to structure the heart, how to write it down on a scrap piece of paper whilst you may be doing your exam to kind of help you out with any heart-based questions that you've got there. So just to recap, if we was to go into a clockwise wave, starting clockwise, so you breathe in oxygen, goes down into your lungs through a process called gaseous exchange. That oxygen gets into the bloodstream. The oxygenated blood then transfers through the pulmonary vein into the left atrium. It'll then drop down into the left ventricle, and then it'll pump out of the aorta to the rest of the body to oxygenate, to feed the rest of the bodily systems with oxygen. Once your bodily systems has utilised that oxygen, the blood would then carry on transferring around, but this time just with more carbon dioxide in there. So it'll transfer back round into your Vena Cava, into the right atrium, down into the right ventricle, and then it'll be pumped out of the pulmonary artery to feed that back up into the lungs for gaseous exchange to happen again, and then you breathe out the carbon dioxide. So thanks for watching, guys. Know that was a little bit of a long one that time, but hopefully this helped you. If you want more content like this from us guys here at Velocity PT Academy, make sure that you like and subscribe to this video on YouTube, and also look to like all of our social media pages on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter as well.